Still to come, her young son was taken and brought to another country.
Oh, I just dropped to the floor.
Now she's not sure if he'll ever come home. Plus, the vice president's daughter, Charlotte Pence, is here to talk about her faith, family, and first impressions of the president.
Welcome back, everyone. So imagine not knowing if you will ever get the chance to hold or even see your own child again. That is the reality that Rachelle Smith is facing. She is desperate for help to bring her 4-year-old son home. His father abducted him and took him to Lebanon. We're going to speak to her in a moment, but first, watch this.
Kiss your mommy.
Dexter is a happy, sweet little funny boy.
Wow, wow, wow.
He loves to go to his little preschool. He loves to go to the park, to the bounce house, swimming. His laugh is just so contagious.
In 2014, Rachelle Smith and her boyfriend, Ali Salome, welcomed the birth of their son, Dexter.
We were very excited, extremely excited when I found out that I was pregnant with Dexter.
But when Dexter was 10 months old, the couple broke up. And Smith says that's when the child custody fights would start.
I had concerns at that point. His father would threaten to keep Dexter from me and that I would never see him again. It was a constant custody battle throughout the past few years.
Smith shared custody of Dexter with his father.
On August 1st, 2018, I was at work and I had a babysitter at the house with Dexter, and I got an alert on my phone from my Ring doorbell that there was motion, and the father had broken into my home and had kidnapped Dexter from his bed in the middle of the night. The police were notified immediately, and luckily they were able to locate him and arrest him.
Salome was charged with 2 felonies, burglary and interference with child custody.
The judge had ordered that the following day that the father was allowed to pick up our son Dexter from preschool at Friday afternoon, but to return him no later than 9 a.m. on Monday morning. On Monday morning, I packed Dexter's lunch and I went to his school and he wasn't there, so I started to panic a bit.
Smith received an email from Salome saying Dexter and I left.
So at that point, I immediately called 911 and I had FBI investigating the case immediately. I expected that maybe he took him to Michigan right away because he has family and he's born and raised in Dearborn, Michigan. The following day, I had the knock on the door from FBI that, I needed to sit down, that it was confirmed that my son was in Beirut, Lebanon. Oh, I just dropped to the floor and just screaming, devastated. This can't be happening, and it's indescribable, really.
Oh, Rachelle Smith and her lawyer, Patrick Leduc, join me now. Thank you for being here. This just happened.
Yes, it happened on August 24th.
So you are just over a month, almost 2 months now from having seen your son.
Yes.
Can we just go back a bit? When he broke into the house on August 1st and took Dexter in the middle of the night, how did he get the right to have any visitation with him after that event?
So immediately the next day, I went and I filed an injunction for protection for me and my son, and it was immediately denied. And I had to wait 2 weeks for a hearing to hear about the situation, and in that time, they granted the father to have every other weekend, and it was supposed to start the following day. And within the first day of his time sharing, he had sold all his belongings, picked him up from preschool, and fled the country that night.
Oh. Do you know why the courts did that? Didn't give you the order? Didn't, gave Dexter right back? Maybe this is a question for you.
Well, partly had a parenting plan. Originally, the court had given her 100% time sharing, and then the court, a year before this, had decided on a motion to reconsider that. And
let him see his boy.
Right. Florida has a presumption to give equal time sharing, and that was, they were enjoying that. And then this happened. And so we had a hearing set for September 12th to kind of deal with all of these issues, because he kept stealing the child and he kept withholding time sharing. He was actually found in contempt earlier on because of his conduct. So, and she had a reasonable fear, obviously, that he was going to kidnap the child. So it seemed rational at the time because he had a bond on the criminal case. He had an attorney to allow him to have every other weekend rather than going from equal time sharing to every other weekend. And in fact, when he picked up the child that day, he even told the staff, I'm going to get full custody and I'm going to withdraw this child from the school. Well, by 6 o'clock that night, he was on an airplane to Atlanta through Rome and landed in Beirut. We had every reason to believe that this wouldn't happen. You know, the only person who knew this was going to happen was Rachelle.
And you also had reason to believe it wasn't going to happen because Dexter, as far as you knew, didn't have a passport.
Right.
Yes.
And that was by design. He wasn't allowed to have a passport per the judge's orders.
Yes, so I had expressed my concerns on multiple occasions to the court, and they had a no passport. He had a restriction that he was not allowed to have a passport. And 4 days prior to the abduction, I checked with I had him enrolled in a U.S. insurance program. A passport insurance program, so he wouldn't, I would be notified immediately if somebody applied for one or if there was, and there wasn't.
But that was a U.S. passport.
Correct.
And his dad has Lebanese citizenship.
Right.
And found a way around getting the passport, that's where we're going to pick it up.
Yeah, we'll pick
Stand
it up
by, because we're going to take a quick break and talk about what the chances are that Rachelle will see Dexter again. Don't go away.
Still to come, Charlotte Pence, the vice president's daughter, on her father and her faith.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with Rachelle Smith and her attorney, Patrick Leduc. Rachelle's 4-year-old son, Dexter, was abducted and taken overseas by his father just 2 months ago to Beirut. So the father got a passport through the Lebanese consulate and forged documents and, pulled one over. And when was the first you were able to speak to him about what he'd done, Rachelle?
I believe it was that day, later on that day when I found out on the 25th, the following day after that.
What
he
did he
didn't
say?
return. He wants me to, he wants me to admit the truth. And I'm not quite sure what that is. And I've asked him, what would you like me to admit? I'll do anything, but the facts are that he had broken into my house 2 weeks prior, kidnapped him, and then he had abducted him to Lebanon. So I'm still unsure of.
Did you see Dexter? Like, did you see him on
I got to
FaceTime?
FaceTime him right when he was taken over there. And then about 2 weeks ago on my trip to Washington, D.C., the Lebanese government did enforce a welfare check, and I was able to Skype with him.
Mm-hmm. What was that like?
It was great being able to see him, but it's not my little happy boy that I'm used to seeing. He looked very scared. His father was in the background yelling, and he was trying to comfort his dad, It was very terrifying.
Lebanon doesn't have an extradition treaty with us, which means what?
They're not signers of the Hague Convention. There's no extradition treaty. It would seem like a hopeless situation. But I can say this, I'm a Christian, a man of God, and I believe that all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. And this is a strong woman right here, and God wasn't on His throne and surprised by this, and God's doing a great work here. And I believe, and through faith, I'm a lawyer. I try to handle our legal problems, but I also believe that we have an eternal future. And I just think that God is going to make this happen for her.
What do you think? I mean, Rachelle, do you think you're going to see Dexter again?
Oh, yeah. I'm very hopeful that I'll see him.
Okay. You're not a rich woman.
No.
Right? What do you do for a living?
I'm a real estate agent, and then I also wait tables at night.
You wait tables. So, you have legal fees. You're actually doing this pro bono.
Practically, yeah. I'm free of charge right now. So
yeah, because you can't afford it. Good for you. And is your ex, does he have money?
He hasn't worked in the past few years, but his family has money that has been funding him.
To get the cost of going through the Lebanese judicial system, which is what we're being compelled to do, is going to run her about $65,000 or upwards. And that's the problem here. When you're a waitress and you're trying to create, you know, it takes time to make money as a real estate agent. She's like any other single mom. She's a strong woman trying to make it in the world. But she can't, who has $65,000?
Right,
and she's got to go through that system. So I'm just saying there's a GoFundMe account if you could help her, but more importantly, you know, pray for her and pray for him.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. We will pray for you and for Dexter, and we'll stay on it. We'll keep following it. All the best to you. Wow. We'll be right back.